So, first of all, welcome to YouTube Live. I've never done it before. Secondly, I can't believe it's 11 months and I had a haircut. I think next week I'm going to have a bet whether I should get a haircut because it's time to wake up to the reality that's coming back to us. So, first and foremost, thank you very much for joining this, whether you're watching it live or recording. There was kind of many reasons for doing this, and first and foremost, this was about how we can get the big guys beaten. That says kind of us against them. But the point is, how big your technology business is. The big guys have got massive budgets, but they're not using their budgets properly. And again, I'll talk about Accenture in a minute or two. But this really isn't about picking an Accenture or picking any other company. This is about saying that there are techniques that you can use very easily to basically to dominate your niche, no matter how big the players are you're up against. And there's many reasons for this. But I mean, partly, the big guys get lazy. They don't understand cutting edge technologies and cutting edge kind of mechanisms of getting their content in front of the right audience. But what always happens typically is that the big guys play at a top level. They play at the kind of, we're going to talk about cloud as the example. They play at the kind of what is cloud computing. They play at a super high level. But what they're forgetting is that beneath that there's so much information that if what is cloud is interesting, it's kind of important, but there's so many niches below that and sub niches and sub niches that's where the opportunity really is. So on the one hand, there's tons of opportunity. I kind of do feel a bit afraid in terms of if we put this content out there, what if Accenture gets it and they realize what they can do if they want to really dominate with the budgets they've got. They are probably unstoppable, and then they might even tell IBM they'll then do the same thing, and Infosys and TCS. But what's different between what you're doing and what they're doing is this: it's that they've got a very different model. They walk into businesses and people know who they are. They know the brand. They've got a very sort of business development relationship based model that people their sales leads know who their target audiences are, and they're able to get through the door because of their brand or because of their connections. For almost all technology businesses, especially the ones that are starting the first couple of years of growth, you don't have that luxury. You don't have the brand recognition. You don't have the connections. Hopefully you've got a couple of potential clients to start testing things out on. But you're almost at zero if you're not fully at zero. So you don't have the brand, you don't have the network. So what can you do? And my background is simple. I trained as a chartered accountant or a CPA, qualified in London with EY, and just spent so much time working in startups that a couple of years ago I figured that it was time to work out, how to crack the whole startup thing and get and find the model that's going to help growth in a kind of a formulaic kind of way. And one of the things that I saw with all the technology businesses I worked with or advised on was that they didn't really have any mechanism for getting leads, for getting sales. They typically had, well, let's dig deeper in that in a minute or two. But what became really important was that, most technology businesses are super strong with the technology. And then once they've built the technology, they can go, okay, how do we get this to market? And my view is always, especially when I'm advising either startups or people looking to invest in startups, is that the technology is almost the easy part. But the most difficult thing is to get in front of the target audience and then to get that through to a sale. So I spent, the last couple of years really dissecting the whole process from, how you can get people's attention all the way through to how it becomes a sale. And this is what led to, us being able to kind of set up the mission of the beacons, which is to speed up the adoption of technology. And we don't want to have to wait, 10 years in a pandemic for, this generation's version of Zoom or this generation's version of robotic process automation to be discovered by the masses and then be adopted. You want today's technology that solves today's problems to be adopted today or this week or this month, not to have to wait 15 or 16 years. And this is the common theme that I was seeing consistently, was that technologies were being invented and created, but it was taking 10, 15, sometimes 20 years for markets to wake up to what's possible. So really what we're trying to do here, and what we're trying to do by illustrating with Accenture, is that if you get this right, then you're going to speed up the time it takes for you to get your message in front of your ideal target customer. And if you're able to speed up that first part of the process, then getting to kind of a hot lead is the next part that gets sped up. And once that's sped up, then you get to a sale faster. And then if you can do the implementation faster, this is what starts to build in the trajectory of your growth. So for all the rest of us who are not Accenture, our kind of model is very, very simple. You create content that attracts the audience. And this could be free content, it could be paid advertising, it could be presentation, it could be speeches, it could be anything really, but you created the content. And then you use that content to convert the people who see the content into an audience, into leads. So you've got your audience that's looking at your content, you're turning that audience into leads. And that could be them going to a web page, could be a phone call, or a phone number they're leaving, could be following on Facebook or following on LinkedIn. But you've got them in your sort of funnel, and then that is what's going to help you take to conversion, whereby people are actually following you, people are engaging with you, and that's what leads to the sale faster. So that's kind of the broad background. Again, I'm sort of surprised I ended up in the marketing space, but what I find fascinating is just the whole creativity. And again, going back to the challenges technology firms have is that we just don't see them having the creativity to create content that gets them in front of the right target audience, even though their target audience is already looking for the content that they should be producing. So, and then the next thing is why Accenture. So I don't really want to pick on Accenture, but literally we could have picked on IBM as an example. We could have picked on Capgemini. There's any big technology business. But I stumbled across Accenture's YouTube channel when I was doing work for a tiny company who technically competes in one small part of what Accenture does overall. And of course, I worked at Accenture for 4 years, and it was I really had a great time, working with super smart people. And my kind of classic story was we were doing a large deal in the US. I was based out of London at the time. We were doing a large deal based out of kind of between New York and Washington. And I arrived in New York on about 10 p.m. on Monday, the 10th of September 2001. So of course, I arrived there at 10 o'clock at night. Flight back to the UK was 7 o'clock the following night. I was going to be in the city for 21 hours. And of course, 9/11 happens the next morning, and suddenly you're stuck there for a week. So that's probably one of the main reasons I ended up living in New York permanently. But so this is not criticism of Accenture. I had 4 fantastic years, great, smart people. They recruit amazing graduates, and their pipeline and their model is so powerful. And of course, the brand they built around it. But again, as I say, it could have been IBM, could have been TCS. So this is nothing personal. It's just an illustration. And the thing I would say to you, I think I would say to myself, I think I would say to anyone is it's actually much easier to criticize from the outside, to review from the outside. One of the podcasts I listen to a lot, a guy called Rob Dial, and just go to Rob Dial Jr. on any of the podcast channels. But he basically says, you can't read the label when you're in the jar. So it's much easier to sit outside and say, you should have done that, you should have done this, or you could do this, or you could do that. But when you're actually in the zone, then it's much harder to self-analyze and self-criticize. And so, again, caveats all around, this is not criticism. This is just actually able to take an external perspective. But for any business, I would recommend you taking the chance to do this, is get someone just to do an audit, do a review of what you're doing, channel by channel, content by content, or your landing pages, your sales funnels, really whatever it is, just get an external person to review it, because it's a super powerful exercise to go through. So I end up with Accenture. We've been doing some. Let me just find how I work out to share screen. This is the first time I've used screen share, so let me. That's how to share screen. This is a bit painful. Well, anyway, let me just keep talking. But so the background was that we were doing some work for for a client who technically competes against Accenture. But we were getting great reviews, great rankings for them on YouTube in number one, number two slot on page one, very, very simply. And I started to look at some of the bigger competitors who were technically in the same space as this client. And also what was happening was that videos were feeding through to page one of Google as well. So Google search was actually picking up the videos from YouTube and putting them onto page one of Google search. This was happening in them, page one YouTube was happening instantly and getting embedded in there. And one of the interesting things is once you're embedded in a good ranking for on YouTube is that your videos are more accessible, more visible, more people are going to see them organically. So therefore, they get further embedded because more people are stumbling across your videos, and that's further reinforcing the ranking. So once you're there, you've got a strong chance to stay. But what also happens is that Google starts to recognize what's happening in YouTube, sees that you're answering a very specific question that is being asked on Google, and it starts to pull in the video from YouTube back onto page one of Google search. So this is why it's probably one of the most powerful and fastest ways to get onto Google front page search. So I still haven't solved this problem of how to share a screen. Here, just allow. This might explain why we haven't used YouTube Live in the past. So I'm going to do it. You're working on this. Turns out you can do it. So anyway, just while I find this, so we are getting great rankings for this one client, and it was very simple to do it. Once we'd actually worked out what the content was that had to be created, but Accenture wasn't getting there. We're beating Accenture hands down on these terms. So that was it. So literally, wherever we're doing content for this client, we're beating Accenture left, right, and center. So, many of you will see that kind of not. I'm focused on YouTube for several reasons, but it's really not about me being obsessed by YouTube per se. But YouTube is such a powerful tool because fundamentally your competitor's not on it. Almost every technology firm, whether they're big or small, is either ignoring YouTube or is doing it as a token. So I would probably put Accenture in that camp. They're there, they're using it, they're active on it, but they aren't really investing in it in a way that's going to drive sales for them. Maybe awareness, yes, but not sales. So we I think I've actually worked on to do this. Anyway, so we were actively going after YouTube, but what I find powerful, not just about YouTube but with video full stop, is that once you've created a video, and videos are so easy to do nowadays, you just need your phone, you just need your computer. Creating the video is so simple. And in a lot of our training, a lot of our client work, we actually teach people how to do this effectively and at scale. It takes 30 minutes a week, and you get great content. Because once you've got video, and this is the powerful thing about video, is that literally I could interview any of you immediately and about your specialist topic, and we could walk away with 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes of video content that you can use immediately. Once you know how to position it and get it onto YouTube properly in a structured way, then that content's there forever. But you've got the video, you can put it onto YouTube, you can put the video onto Facebook, so actually you can leverage the video content itself in its existing format. But then what you can also do is that you can take the transcription of the video, and that gives you your blog post. So rather than doing a blog post or saying, can you write a blog post, and that never happening, you actually end up creating a video, taking the transcription, and that's the fastest way to create a blog post. Literally within 10, 15, maybe 30 minutes, you can have a credible blog post based on what the conversation was. And even more powerful is that the transcription tools are all there. They're all free online. So you take what you're saying, and it's transcribed into text. And the one we use a lot is called Vidnami. And one of the funniest things about Vidnami is that you actually choose, which language, or sorry, which accent you're translating from. So being Scottish, it actually does have a Scottish English translation transcription option. Uh, so American English, English English. So it's very very powerful in terms of the options it's got. So that's Vidnami. So we I'm conscious this is going to get very boring if you just keep looking at me, but I keep going back to this. Okay, I found a video on YouTube that shows me how to do this. So that's perfect. Um, so the point, really what I'm saying is that videos are a really, really powerful place to start. As simple as that. Um, because of what you can create. So once you've created the blog, they've already got the video. You can put the video into the blog. You can turn the video into shorter excerpts. So if you've got a 20-minute interview or 20-minute conversation, you can split that into like maybe 4 different smaller sections or 10 different smaller sections. Each one answering the questions. You can then take that content, put it onto its own YouTube postings and social media postings, and suddenly you've got this 20-minute content that's now broken into digestible chunks. So video as a whole is absolutely powerful as a starting point. You can take we take the thumbnails from videos and use them for social media further. So really, this is not about video necessarily. This is about the power of the video as a starting point. So in terms of content creation, you're spending 30 minutes creating the video, and after that, you've got all the social media content you need for the next week, and it lasts even longer if you're needing it. So go back to what was happening was that we were seeing first and foremost that if you're creating video content, it is the fastest way onto page 1 of Google search. Yes, you're ranking very highly on YouTube very, very quickly, but when I started to dig deeper into Accenture, it was simple to what they were doing. They're spending a ton of money on videos, and you can go and look at it yourself. I would share my screen, but that's not happening today. But if you you basically just go to their website, go to YouTube Accenture, and you'll see very simply that they're spending a lot of money on video, but the video is not doing anything that you would do with video, i.e., turning it into clients and opportunities, because the video is just at a high level. It talks about broad concepts. It talks about issues which were not. So bear with me. Find this darn video for. Sorry, this is a bit awkward, but I don't know why this is difficult to do. Again, I thought we'd use Google or YouTube Live to see how it goes, but if you can't share your screen, then it gets very boring for you guys just listening to my conversation. Yep. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to recognize that this is time to accept defeat. Very, very painful. I thought we'd just be automatically able to share screens, but that's not happening. I'll tell you what, I'm going to record this separately and do it that way, because you guys watching me talk or interpret what I'm saying isn't the same as me showing the screen. So let's call it quits. I'll be back online and I'll do it live separately. Apologies.